My oldest son, wrestling with a 4-year-old's happy struggles, is trying to clarify how many people can be his best friend. My best friends are you and Mama and my brother and. But even a child's joy is not immune to this ominous political period. This summer's images of violence in Ferguson, Missouri prompted an array of questions. Some people hate others because they are different, I offer lamely. A childish but distinct panic enters his voice. But I'm not different. It's impossible to convey the mixture of heartbreak and fear I feel for him. Barack Obama's election has made it clear that I will teach my boys the lesson generations old, one that I, for the most part, nearly escaped. I will teach them to be cautious, I will teach them suspicion, and I will teach them distrust. Much sooner than I thought I would, I will have to discuss with my boys whether they can truly be friends with black people. As against our gaudy national hopes, I will teach my boys to have profound doubts that friendship with black people is possible. When they ask, I will teach my sons that their beautiful hue is a fault line. Spare me platitudes of how we are all the same on the inside. I first have to keep my boys safe, and so I will teach them before the world shows them this particular brand of rending, violent, often fatal betrayal. Let me assure you that my heartbreak dwarfs my anger. I grew up in a classic Midwestern college town. With all its American faults, it was a diverse and happy childhood kind of place, slightly dull in the way that parents wish for their children. If race showed in class lines, school cliques, and being pulled over more often, our little Americana lacked that deep racial tension and mistrust that seems so hard to escape now. What's surprising is that I am heartbroken at all. It is only for white Americans who grew up in such a place that watching Mr. Obama is so disorienting. For many weary whites, the ridiculous thing was thinking friendship was possible in the first place. It only hurts if you believed friendship could bridge the racial gorge. Of course, the rise of this president has broken bonds on all sides, but for whites, the stakes are different. Imagining we can now be friends across this political line is asking us to ignore our safety and that of our children to abandon personal regard and self-worth. Only black people can cordon off Mr. Obama's political meeting, ignore the unpleasantness from a position of safety. His election and the year that has followed have fixed the awful thought in my mind too familiar to white Americans. You can't trust these people. For white Americans, race has become a proxy not just for politics, but also for decency. Black faces are swept together, ominous anxiety behind every chance encounter at the airport or smiling black cashier. If they are not clearly allies, they will seem unsafe to me. There is hope, though. Implicitly, without meaning to, Mr. Obama asks us if this is the best we can do. It falls to us to do better. We cannot agree on our politics, but we can declare that we stand beside one another against cheap attack and devaluation, that we live together and not simply beside one another. In the coming years, when my boys ask again their questions about who can be their best friend, I pray for a more hopeful answer. Sounds pretty racist, doesn't it, ladies and gentlemen? What you just heard were excerpts from a piece written for the New York Times Sunday opinion page by Ekau N. Yanka titled, Can My Children Be Friends with White People? And it's just as bad as it sounds, ladies and gentlemen. All I did with the preceding paragraphs was tweak a few words, change black people for white people and vice versa in a few key places, and it reads like something that could be written by any pundit in the Jim Crow era. It reads like something you'd find on Stormfront written by David Duke. And this is in the Sunday edition of the New York Times, ladies and gentlemen. This blatant anti-white racism where this learned professor admits that he is going to be teaching his children to be racist. He is going to teach them to judge people based on the color of their skin. Now, Mr. Yanka invokes Martin Luther King in the paragraphs of his racist anti-white screed. I personally think that Dr. Martin Luther King would read this and would beat the ever-loving crap out of Mr. Yanka. This is not what Martin Luther King and so many other people in the civil rights era fought and bled and died for. They did not give up their lives so that people like this educated professor could proclaim in a supposedly legitimate, upstanding, respectable publication that white people are evil and racist. That's not what the civil rights movement was about, and the New York Times and Mr. Yanka should be absolutely positively ashamed that they put this out. This is completely unacceptable, and if this was a white writer doing the same thing with black people, it would not be stood for. And we cannot stand for this kind of blatant racism, ladies and gentlemen. Screw you, New York Times, and screw you, Ekal Yanka. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening. What do you think about the New York Times promoting anti-white racism? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. Both of those things help me out quite a bit. Once again, thank you so much for listening, and I will see you all next time.